Hello, everyone. This is Jim Seacrest with the Allover podcast, and tonight I'm talking to a Christian artist. He's a rapper. His name is Tyler Davis. He goes by TD as well, and he's got a new album coming out called Reflections. And so I just want to say hello, Tyler, and welcome to my show.
Hey Jim, how's it going? It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having
Thank
me
you.
on.
Yeah, it's cool talking to you. I so um, let's get started with this was by asking you so how'd you get started in rapping, doing Christian rap or being a Christian artist in the rap business.
Well, it's funny. I had never thought I'd be doing music or get into music. I've always been um, very connected to music when I was young. Never really understood um, why I was or how I was. I just had when I was younger, I always felt very connected emotionally to music and the lyrics. Um, More specifically because I had always growing up focused on what people were saying, and I was introduced uh, to music and how to record music more specifically by a friend of mine named Chandler Richards. I was doing some football camps, and we met, we became friends, and was he grew up in Atlanta and was doing music, and I thought it was so cool. And I asked him if he could show me how he recorded, and he showed me, and I kind of took it and ran with it. And that was in 2011, and it became kind of my getaway when I started playing college football. When that kind of got difficult, it was kind of my getaway from the real world, my stress reliever. I started recording and writing songs, and it just kind of grew from there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. You know, what? Let's see. So, what was your influences? What was your like besides that? I mean, have you do you have any influences as far as music?
I do. I I really like all genres of music. I think the only music that I don't necessarily listen to, um, I would say, on a regular basis, is hardcore screamo rock. It's probably the only genre that I've never really connected with. But other than that, I'm kind of all over the spectrum. Growing up, my mom used to play oldies in the car, and I would listen to that, and like Yellow Polka Dotted Bikini and different stuff like that growing up. So I grew up being showed a lot of different music, being shown a lot of different music, and honestly, when I was young, I think I would say my favorite genre was actually country.
Okay.
Um, and I've always enjoyed country music uh, and the stories that get told behind it. But as as much as I loved country music, as I was getting older, I really listened to rap and hip hop. I'd say probably the most. Um, and I think that was probably the biggest influence going into music and deciding to rap as an artist. Uh, when I was in high school, I really listened to a lot of Lecrae after I got saved, and uh, I think that was probably the biggest influence when I began writing music. Was he and several other uh, artists who were Christians that are all connected to a label called Reach Records down in Atlanta, I believe it is, and I would say they were probably some of my biggest influences when I got into being an artist. Now I still write different genres. I've got several country songs that I've written and hope to stay along the lines of being a writer as well. But those were probably some of my biggest influences as I started writing and honing my skills as an artist.
Hmm. That's interesting because like you like country, but you'd rather play rap, and that's cool. I've heard of the Lecrae. I Most of the rap that I've basically listened to was DC Talk. back in
Yeah,
the day, you know. Um, and
very much so.
so will you basically like do rap and then you'll do some music on? Will there be rap and music on your albums, or just you know, um, you know what I mean? What
Yeah.
you
Well,
know what I'm trying to say? Like you're gonna have like rap and then some actually songs, or just all rap? That's what I want to get
well,
at.
this album. I'm very excited for it because it kind of it's got a bit of a broad spectrum of the style of music I do, uh, and I say that because the album itself tells a story. 2018 was a big year for me. I went through a lot of changes, and it was the year that I decided to get very personal with my music. Um, and the album itself kind of tells a story of things that I went through. So there are songs on the album that are aggressive, angry. There are emotional songs um, that there's a couple that I would consider to be borderline R&B. Um, so that I've got two phenomenal artists that sing on the album featured on there. So there is some singing as well as rapping. It's kind of a broad spectrum on the album. So there is, yeah.
Okay, I was just kind of curious about your that album. I mean, Rise Up. Is that one of your feature songs?
It is
Raps?
not. It is not on the album.
Oh,
It is Rise Up was a single that I released in 2016, I believe it was. That and When You're Gone, which When You're Gone uh, has some R&B ish feel to it. Rise Up was a hype song that I made for Edinburgh
okay.
after I had left. The football team went through some changes and brought in a new head coach, uh, Justin Lustig, who is now at Syracuse coaching the running backs. But I decided to make that hype song for the football team to kind of help them with recruiting and to show my pride in the program and in the school itself.
I see. Yeah, because it had a lot of football stuff in it. And I was like, wow, that's cool. You know,
Yeah,
I really thought it was actually going to be on your album. To tell you the truth, I thought, well, that'd be
I,
yeah.
it is. It's been available for a couple of years. It's out now, all on my website. But the album itself is going to be 10 brand new songs that have never been heard before.
Okay, good. And
Yeah.
you're gonna that'll be what on Spotify and
Yeah, it'll be downloadable on all digital platforms: iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora. If you can search it and download it, it'll be there.
okay, and that's Reflections. We're talking about the album, your debut album,
It is. Yeah.
Reflections. So that's really great that this is your first feature album, and hopefully it'll be a success for you. So okay, so how long have you been a Christian?
I, um, I grew up in the church, um, and I remember when I was really young, we always went. My parents um, have always had a strong faith, but when I was younger, I never really understood it. And as young kids, I don't think many really understand what's going on or what's being said or the magnitude of it. And it was my sophomore year of high school. I transferred high schools to a private school called North Hardin Christian in Radcliffe, Kentucky, and I started going there my sophomore year of high school, and really kind of started understanding, um, you know, what this whole Christianity thing was really about. And I gave my life to the Lord, got saved my sophomore year of high school, and began my walk with Christ. Learned a lot while I was at that school. Um, I credit a lot of who I am today was me growing as a person when I was at that school. So I guess that was 2008, I believe. Well, beginning of 2000, or the end of 2007, 2008 was my sophomore year. So, yeah, that's, I guess, 2007, the last half of the year, 2007, when I was saved, and have been walking with Christ since.
Oh, wow, that's great, man. That's, I can say even myself, I was this, I grew up in church. Seems like many years ago. But yeah, I'm a little bit older than you. But yeah, I mean, church sometimes can really be, how you say, confusing. Especially growing up, especially, and I can definitely understand how you feel about, felt about that at first and all. I know that, when I to tell you the truth, we talk about music. I mean, I remember going to church and the pastor would be saying, hey, don't listen to that rock and roll music and all. And I had a problem with that, I was like, what are you talking about? And I found out that there was a lot of alternatives, and that was great from Christian, the Jesus music at the time, and some of the other things that was going on that that at least actually helped me with the alternative music besides just rock and heavy metal and things like that, which was great. It was great at the time, and that's now look. It's funny looking on music today. I mean, there's it's changed so much. Besides, even rap music and things like that. I mean, it's really, it's changed in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely.
I even my one friend, I used to listen to Striper, and he goes, yeah, they're still together and they're still making music. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't really haven't heard any of their stuff, and I got on Spotify and I was like, I'm getting old, because I was like, yeah, they're, I'm too old to be listening to them anymore.
Well, it comes with a lot of bands as music changes, the industry changes, and a lot of the executives and head people in the industry, they have to find ways to take the bands that they have and the artists that they have and really mold them with the times, which for a lot of people is difficult to do. But it has. I mean, music has changed in all genres across the board significantly.
Yes. I mean, and you're right about that. A lot of Christian bands sound similar, and they always did. Even back when I was growing up, they sound similar to either like AC/DC. I mean, it was funny because I was like, oh wow, these dudes sound like this, but they're Christian. They're singing about Jesus, and
Yeah.
it's okay in a way. It's funny because even I was like, yeah, I guess they have to, set a certain, to sort of sound a little like the world, even though they're not of the world. And so, yeah, that was always a thing with me. Lots of times I was like, yeah, I don't mind listening to these guys. They sound like somebody else, but
Right.
and that's it's good that nowadays the kids got a lot of different, they can listen to a lot of different things. I found my youngest, it's funny, my youngest listens to a lot of the stuff that I used to listen to when I was growing up, and that's what's, it's really funny, so, but yeah, let's see, so let's get back to, sorry about that, so what else, so what other kind of so you got 7 songs. What other, can you give me at least an idea of, well, like a song that you've taught? Can we talk about one of your songs that you have on this album?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, well, so like I said, there's 10 songs that'll be on the album. I think the one that I would say I'm extremely excited for the whole album, but the one that I'm probably most excited to release is actually the single from the album, and it's the 5th track on the album. It's entitled "Forgive Me," and it's got a featured artist on there by the name of Joe Kirk. If you haven't heard of him, definitely look him up. He's a phenomenal artist, great person. We've become pretty good friends since working on the song together, and he's a great guy. He's a phenomenal artist, and the song itself is really what started the album. It really was the pivotal point that got me to say, okay, this album needs to be very personal, because it was the first one I worked on, and I kind of knew it would be the single when I started, but wasn't exactly sure. Really until I came across Joe and had him sing on it, and he gave it exactly what it needed, and that's when I knew it would be the single. And it's extremely personal. It's extremely emotional. The song itself is, and I would probably say I'm most excited for everyone to hear it, because it really, I had been working on it for so long, and it really just came out to be exactly what I was hearing in my head and envisioning it to be.
That's good. Are you going a lot of places? Are you gonna tour once this comes out?
That is in the works. So I teamed up with and really how the album came. The decision to really begin a full album. I had been working on "Forgive Me" and writing it, and I got a call while I was out of town from a promotional company here in Nashville called Summer Sky Music Group. And when I got back into town, they had me come in the studio, and I spoke to the owners, and we just kind of clicked on a personal level, and they told me they wanted to help me get my first album out and promote it and help promote it. And the plan is to start by releasing the single "Forgive Me" onto college radio, and break it that way. They're gonna be taking care of all of that, and then the next step would be to start touring to the colleges that the single has gotten a lot of plays at, the rotations on their radio stations, possibly open up for for headliners that are coming in, bigger artists that are coming in, and kind of grow from there.
Oh, that's great. That's great because college kids they really need people to at least look up to, and someone like you with a positive message to show them that there's other ways, and hopefully you will get a chance to be able to see a lot of people come to the Lord through your music, and which would really be awesome, and hopefully that's the main goal. That's the main goal. Doing that. But I want to. So you went. So you okay. So you're in Nashville now.
I am.
And
yeah, I've been here for 3 years.
Okay, so how? I mean, being in Nashville and places I bet it was kind of hard to really get started then. Right? I mean, you had this calling and all, but it's sometimes there's so many artists and stuff down there, especially, and how? I mean, that's even to get a record contract or whatever. I think that would be kind of tough. How did someone just notice you?
Well, it was it was funny. It is extremely difficult. There's so much talent here in Nashville, and though be it's a lot of it is country based. It's much
Yes.
more diverse than most people know or think it to be. There are tons of pop artists. There are tons of rock guys. I've met several unbelievably musicians, studio musicians. A lot of the guys that play down on Broadway. Some of them that some of them travel with big artists. I've met some unbelievable people, made some great friends. Who do a lot of that. There's just a lot of talent down here, and it's really the way the music industry has grown and kind of formed over the years. It's a lot less common for somebody to go out and play somewhere or perform somewhere and get seen, unless there was somebody specific there to see them. Back in the day, it used to be you'd be playing and a lot of people would get discovered by some exec or A&R talent scout that happened to be in that bar listening to them, and it was kind of by having chance. But nowadays, it's very much about the online following and the social media. However, teaming up with the promotional company really was kind of like getting discovered the old way. I bartend down here in Nashville, to pay for the bills when I moved down here, and I was bartending, and the bar I was at, a friend of mine was performing, and there was a group of girls that had come in and they wanted to hear some Chris Stapleton. And I'm a huge fan of Chris Stapleton. I think he's a phenomenal artist, along with the fact that he's from Kentucky like me is kind of a huge pride moment. But my buddy that was singing on stage said, "Hey, Tyler, these girls want to hear Chris Stapleton. You want to come sing?" And I said, "Sure, well, why not?" So I got on stage and I sang Tennessee Whiskey, and somebody filmed it. It was a friend of mine, and she had posted it just on her personal page, and shared it onto my Facebook page, and it ended up getting passed around to the public relations personnel for Summer Sky Music Group, and she passed it on to the head of the label, and they gave me a call. It was not planned, and I think it's funny because as an artist, I am starting out in rap and hip hop, and I got seen by singing a country song. Just not expected, not really thinking it would happen that way, but it did, yeah.
Yeah. You probably got some interesting stories being a bartender, huh? That's a Christian artist bartending in a bar. That's awesome.
Yeah, to say the least. Yeah.
Does your pastor know? Does your pastor know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting to say the least.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Well, you come a long way, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
absolutely.
But that's good. I mean, you gotta go out there and make money somehow.
Absolutely.
But so now, since you're doing this college thing, is this something that you're called more to young kids to reach out? Is that one of?
It's really more so just a starting point, and it was at the advisement of Summer Sky Music Group, the couple that owns the company. They own the promotional company and the studio here, and they have been in the music industry for a very long time. They're unbelievable people. They're both ministers themselves, and they have never actually worked with a hip-hop artist, but they wanted to grow with the promotional company. So I'm actually the first hip-hop artist that they are teaming up with. And their whole thought process behind it was to start with college radio in order to break it, because the reality of the industry is that to get big radio airplay, you got to have some money backing it, and it's got to be a fairly large amount. And unless you're, already insert big celebrity here, you have to have as an independent artist. I was blessed to learn early on that you've got to have a solid amount of money if you want to get on the radio. Um, that or uh, you have to be connected to a label that has those connections. So the college radio route was really just to start to try to break the single and work towards promoting the album with that single, and then kind of basing it off that and where we go with the success from that point.
I see. Oh, that's good. Like I said, I was just curious because I was more I thought, that you did college. I thought maybe that was more, that's what God wanted you to do. I thought maybe more that was your calling in a way. But that's good, because then you get your fan base.
Right,
And
absolutely. And the college students will honestly be, I think, a large part of my fan base as I start to grow. Like I said, the album is very personal. It's it's very much on the side and focused to relate to people, because I know I'm not the only person that goes through these things. So the album itself is really meant to reach out and relate to people and let them know that they're not alone in going through hardships or successes and things like that. So it's a very personal album, like I said, but it's meant to relate to young people who might be dealing with things or going through a struggle. So I definitely think they'll be a large part of my fan base.
yeah, that's great. Um, when you were playing football, did you think that you would maybe, if wasn't doing this, do you think you would be somewhere right now? Do you think you would be at the NFL?
Uh, I can't say yes or no to that. Making it to the NFL was obviously something that was always in my mind, even from when I was young. I don't know if I necessarily had the talent level to play in the NFL. I think I was confident enough in myself that I could have competed. I think if I had finished out my college career, I had a year left when I decided to focus on music and really felt that that's what I was called to do. Um, I was blessed to know several coaches and former players in the NFL. I think um, I think I had talked to people about tryouts and coming to do workouts and stuff, but I don't really look back on it much anymore. Just because when I do look back at my football career and how everything went, I see all of the things that I thought were, hardships and struggles were really just stepping stones to being where I am now. So I really don't look back on, what if.
Hmm.
I'm very blessed to have the career I was and be able to play at the level I was at. And I enjoyed it, and I do miss it 100%. When something's a part of your life for that long, it's hard not to miss it. And I try to stay active and still go out and throw the football and stuff like that. But I try not to really look back on it too much.
Yeah, I can understand how you feel, but as a parent, I mean, I didn't get it. My son, it was something. I mean, we was through since junior high, and he
Right.
finished out his senior year. So I got what you mean. I understand what you mean about that. It's like our Friday nights are done.
Yeah,
He's not,
absolutely.
and it's. But like I said, I was just kind of curious about that. I was just because you being in football and that takes and it's great that you've learned that that you actually learned that that you have more of a passion for music and that's really great. It's like what like almost like full circle in a way, right? Because
No, absolutely.
which is it's really interesting, because like some people, they'll go through their whole life not knowing what they want to do, and you got the opportunity that you get a chance to do, have your passion of what you want to do, and
Very much so.
and that's what's that's what's great, and the opportunities you're going to be able to get through um, your albums and in your music. I mean, who knows where you'll be in the future as far as music wise, and that's great. And
Absolutely.
it's awesome that you were able to do my show, because I like talking to people that are just coming, just starting in things. Like I talk to actors and all, and they're just starting out as becoming, in the industry. And I get excited about that because it's like, hey, I'm talking to somebody that's, who knows, in a few years they might be on the big screen, instead of the independent. And
Absolutely.
so it's interesting, and I want to be following your career, man. I will. I definitely will. Be checking out your album on Spotify, and seeing how the great things you're doing. Hopefully, maybe you'll come around my area. Maybe I'll see you at Cal U, huh?
Yeah. I wouldn't shy away from it, but I would certainly be wearing my Borough Pride shirt.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. No, huh? Hey, maybe you can, maybe they'll let you sing the national anthem or something when they play Cal U.
Yeah. Exactly.
But to tell you the truth, I'm not really a big. I'm not like, how you say, I'm not that big a fan of like local colleges, anyway.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to go watch a game there, a few ones, just because I enjoy football, as well as you do, and
Absolutely.
my son's career was done after after high school. He's going to be an educator now. He's actually going to be he's working on his degree to become a history teacher. So
Oh, it's awesome. That's very
yeah,
awesome. I've got an older brother who teaches math, who teaches eighth grade math, and a younger sister who is a teacher down in Texas. She does special education.
oh, awesome.
So yes, I come from a family of teachers. So it's man, it's a hard job. It's not easy. They're very much so underpaid.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
It's something you got to have a real true passion for, and wanting to help kids and being in that career path.
Yes, yes, it is. And I keep telling him that don't give up. If you really want, if that's a calling that you want to do in your life, then God to have you somewhere teaching somebody.
Absolutely.
If it's
Absolutely.
not around here in Pennsylvania, then it's somewhere. But you'll be
Absolutely.
to follow your dream.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice. And it's neat that you're able to do that. I mean, and I understand that even you yourself. I mean, I can relate to. I never thought I was gonna do what I wanted to do at first, and I did, and now I'm doing something else. But yet, it's like that God has you where He wants you at.
Absolutely.
And He does answer your prayers. I really never thought I'd be talking to you. It's funny. I talked to a friend of mine a while back, and I said, because we used to, I actually wrote a few songs, and I've wrote even some plays, and
Mm-hmm.
and I've sang. I mean, I've been in praise and worship teams for, several years, doing that kind of stuff and all, and so I'm kind of artsy like that.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I said we were thinking on back in the day having a pirate kind of radio station, and just play a lot of Christian music around here at the time. There was no such thing as K-Love, okay?
Right.
Where I lived, that I wanted to listen to Christian music, they played Christian rock music on Saturday. And how I got to get to listen to Christian music was going to a bookstore. All right.
Mm.
And I would listen to music on Saturday night, and it'd be okay. Let's just say like Petra, for example, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
figure out, okay, well, what's the name of their album? So I had to go to a bookstore and get a book and look them up for them to order my album or actually it was a cassette tape.
Right. Right.
That's how Christian music was back then for me anyway. Living here, because it I don't know it didn't until like people like Striper, some of the they went mainstream, which was great because that sort of really kicked off the Christian thing, and the Christian music from
Right.
and but that's what I did. I mean, to be honest with you, we didn't have the internet back then. Didn't have
Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious. I mean, it was tough to find the music that you wanted to listen to only because we just were able to listen to it on then, and the rest of the time they had just talk and preachers and stuff,
Yeah.
and that's in Pennsylvania. It's not even in Kentucky or or Tennessee,
Right.
in which in Tennessee, I know it's very hard. It was when I have relations in Florida, and it's really hard to find any kind of rock music when you're going through Tennessee. It's like
Right.
nothing but gospel and Christian,
Oh yeah.
a
All
lot of
under the Bible
preachers.
Belt.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, oh, I'm so glad to get out of there. I was younger, okay, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
I had my share of preaching, believe me.
Right. Right. Right.
But yeah, so it was a little different back then, compared to today, and but it was fun, and now it's like it's all over, and lots of it is even, you know, there's a lot of people that say like, okay, well, there's some Christian music out there, but they're really not Christian, and you're like, well, you know what? It still has it's still. Um, I'm gonna listen to it if you don't think it is, only because they still have God in it or whatever. It was a real time back then where
Absolutely.
I mean, I got a lot of discouraged sometimes because it was like, you know, people would say, "Oh, you shouldn't listen to that because it's rock music, but it's Christian music, but it's like," and I'm like, at least then it's an alternative compared to, some of the other kind of music, and that's what
Well,
I.
that's for me. That's a big part of it. So when people in the industry ask me what I do, uh, I like to. Well, I would professionally describe myself as a lyricist because to me that's a big part of music. Um, it's a very I think it's especially when, for instance, with rap music. You turn on the radio and listen to a lot of rap music, and it's a lot of stuff that kids shouldn't listen to.
Mm-hmm,
Sex, drugs, and money.
mm-hmm,
And I think you have to look deeper into the music outside of just the genre, because you I feel as if people like to take a genre and take the majority of it and just ball it up and say it's all like this. It's sadly to say it's very similar to when and this is an extreme example, but racism. You take
mm-hmm,
one group of people and say they're all like this because of X, Y, or Z, and it's not, and that's why I consider myself a lyricist, because I feel like lyrics are very, very important when you're listening to music. It's not now the instruments and everything that goes into making the melody of the song can really bring the emotion of the lyrics. But that's why lyrics are so important, because it can change. Whereas a lot of people, well, it's rock and roll, but it's different than, it's not like the other songs that are put into this category of rock and roll. Well, if it's rock and roll, it's all about sex, drugs, and money, and and it's not all like that. and people tend to just take that ball and say, well, if it's rock and roll or if it's rap, it's bad music. You can't listen to that, and it's not the case, because there's several different kinds and several different categories, and if you just listen to the lyrics, people praise in many different ways, and I think that's a big part of it that a lot of people overlook is the lyrics.
Yes, yes, it is. I mean, when I picked lots of the music that I listened to. One thing I liked about Petra was that, I mean, they even had scripture backing their music, and that was great. Because at least
Yep.
I was like, well, at least they did, and that was something that I look forward to listen to, because there is a lot of it, and I'm just using Petra as an example. I mean, there's a lot of Christian music out there that they use, that they it's a lot of some scripture based or something on that nature. Like you're saying, you're going to have a song, something to do with what you went through, and that's great. And you're telling the story. I think of Carmen. He does a lot of he did a lot of storytelling kind of music.
Right.
Did you ever listen to him?
I did not know.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm sorry. I bring up the oldie,
Oh, no,
the old genre, I get on genre, whatever. But yeah. Like I said, if you get a chance, try it. Listen to him. He did a rap. He did all kinds of different styles of music. And he's the one that what I like about him. His concerts are free.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. You just go, and then what they do is they take a love offering. He already pays for, and what that'll go for is the next. Now, like I said, now I think he's been around for a long time. But what he does is, once you pay for, like give him a love offering. Yeah, that'll go to the next stadium or the next,
Awesome.
place that he does, and he doesn't the Dove Awards,
Mm.
for example. He doesn't acknowledge that stuff.
Yeah.
He never, you wouldn't see him, at the Dove Awards or anything like that. All his praise goes to God. It doesn't go to, himself.
Right.
And I think the Dove Awards are okay. I don't even watch them anymore. I don't know if they still have them.
They do.
Do
They
they?
do. I haven't. I mean, I honestly don't really watch many award shows anymore.
Uh-huh.
But the Dove Awards are still around. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I mean, that was a long time ago. So
All right.
I'm kind of, like I said, I'm still kind of like out of the Christian music in a way. I am, as far as like the K-Love stuff and things like that, and I'm a big Skillet fan. But
Mm.
as far as some of the stuff, I don't even honestly. I'll listen to older music or.
Yeah. Skillet. It's funny you say Skillet. Skillet was the first concert I was ever at. They were my first concert. It was the summer before my senior year of high school. I went on a mission trip down to New Orleans, and every night we got to the Superdome, and it was, I mean, it was just tens of thousands of students from different churches from around the world, high school students. And at the end of the week, Skillet performed. And at the time, I had no idea who they were. Like I said, when I was in high school, a big influence for me was Lecrae and the group that he was with, which is called 116, after Romans 1:16. And I had actually never heard of Skillet. Well, no, that's a lie. I had heard of Skillet, but I had not heard any of their music. And they performed. It was awesome. It was an awesome concert.
Uh-huh.
That was the first concert I was ever in.
Do you know how I found out about Skillet?
How was that?
The WWE. They, yeah, because I play video games with my kids and all, and
Yeah.
Monster was on one of the games. I can't remember which one, but it was on one of the video games that the WWE put out.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, I was like, no way, these guys are Christian, you know.
Yeah.
But they were that, like I said, that's like they're like the only like I don't know why I can't get into some of the Christian things, you know, nowadays. You know, I'm just
Well, it's
getting
like I
old.
said, it's a lot of it's changed. It changes with the
Yes,
times
yes,
and the generations that are coming up. You know, the music industry has to kind of abide by their rules. You know, because things will go out of date very quickly because of new trends or, you know, the styles that are changing. Which is, in all honesty, the beauty of music, because it's, you know, I'm a huge believer that music is a blank canvas, and we get put into these boxes of genres, but you can do whatever you want with a song, and that's the beauty of it. Is there are no boundaries,
hmm
you know, and that's how new stuff is created, and it changes with the genres coming up, and the music industry has to do that, and it you know it's constantly rotating, it's constantly moving.
yes, yes. It is. I mean, you know, um, you know, sometimes I still am, you know, back, you know, all the music you can actually download now and all this other stuff. I mean, you can never do that. You know, you could never do that before. You know, you had
Right, right.
you made your mixtape. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I mean,
You
it's
make a mixtape and you
it
walk around with a CD, and that's
right.
you know that's the
It's
extent of it. That's what you got. Well, and it's the the artists that are you know, and I still listen to, um, you know, I one of the things with hip hop and rap nowadays that has changed so much is this what they now call mumble rap, or what I like to call it is beat fetish rap. And I say that because the lyrics don't necessarily mean anything or have any kind of substance to them, but it's a really good beat. And you know, it's sad because the artist that's quote unquote rapping on it gets all the praise, but it really should be the producers that get the praise because they're the ones that create the feel for the song, of which has no substance in the lyrics. And that's you know that's why I there's a lot of new rappers and new hip hop artists that are on the radio that I don't listen to because I can enjoy a beat, but I can't really get behind lyrics that you can't even understand when somebody's saying them. But I mean, I
yeah.
still listen. You know, guys like Kendrick Lamar, Chance the Rapper, J. Cole. You know, these guys that have a lot of substance to their music. I still listen to a lot of that. Um, that might be, you know, I considered secular music or outside the Christian world, because a lot of that has, it's the emotion in the lyrics and the storytelling of what they've gone through and things that people can relate to. That's the thing with music is it's so powerful, um, in what you say, and relating to other people and the emotion that you get from music and how you can touch people's lives, is
Mhm.
phenomenal. And that's why I think lyrics are so important.
It is. I mean, I can I can, you know, just if you just think of a song, or a song comes on the radio, lots of times, I mean, any kind of 80s song is like, oh my gosh, you know, I sometimes I hate it because it's like, oh geez, I can remember what I was doing. I remember this song,
Right,
and
right.
you know what I mean. And it does. It has that effect on you, and that's the power of music. For some reason, you know, you can
Yeah,
remember certain words. You can remember that, and it'll
yeah.
stay with you. And then you'll remember, you know, and that's the nice thing. Yeah, it's even funnier sometimes because I used to, um, you know, they you know, it's cool because lots of times when they make even movies and they put some older music on it, it's so awesome because you're like, oh wow, you know, maybe the movie wasn't that great, but hey, you know what, they had some pretty cool music in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh,
You know,
absolutely. Absolutely.
like Sandler, for example. I mean, Adam Sandler, he'll have a movie, and I was like, ah, it's okay, but hey, you know what, the music was great. You
Right, 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 right.
know? But okay, I got one more question to ask you, and uh, I never thought of it, but I was just wondering. Okay, I know like how I sort of would come up with a song. Do you do you come up with the lyrics first, or do you come up with the melody?
That's a difficult question. it all kind of depends on the emotion of the song to me and the mood I'm in at the time and what I'm writing about. As a lyricist, more times than not, it's the lyrics that come first. Um, but there are several times where I will search for an instrumental or a beat when it comes to rap and hip hop that gives me the emotion for the song I want to write. So I will have an idea for a song, and kind of like a thesis for a paper, um, I know what I want to write about, but I don't know what I'm going to write just yet. So I have the base of the song
Hmm.
and the idea of the song, and I will search for not necessarily a specific melody, but an emotion. Um, when I'm searching for a beat or an instrumental, or when it comes to country, I'll have a buddy of mine, or I'll go online and find a guitar instrumental or riff, or whatever it is. What I'm looking for isn't necessarily a specific melody, but more so an emotion that comes off in the music that I know is going to um, really blend well with the type of song and the lyric that I want to put with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. um, because a lot of times I would always come up with the chorus or whatever, and it was tougher to find the the words. It's like, well, I could have a great chorus, but there's no, I got to have some words. How do I blend the words into the song I'm writing? And I was just curious on how, do you hear the music in your head?
Uh, a lot of times I do, um, not always, but like I said, for me with music, a lot of it is more so about the emotion. So it's not necessarily that I hear the music in my head right off the bat. It's more so I feel the emotion of the song, and I go based off of that emotion. Now, once I've started to write a song, I will begin hearing how I want the song to sound. So, for instance, with Forgive Me being the single, I had it written uh, really before the idea of creating an album around it. And I, I had it written, I had it completely recorded as a demo, um, but it just wasn't there. I knew the emotion that I wanted in the song, and I could hear the emotion that I wanted in the song in my head, but I wasn't able to, for instance, for the chorus, what I was singing, I wasn't able to, with my voice, portray what I was feeling and what I was hearing and what I wanted people to hear and feel when they listened to it. And when I came across Joe, I had just gotten off work at the bar I worked at, and it's connected to a karaoke bar that I worked at as well. And I went in there with a coworker um, who lived, who I was staying with at the time, and I was waiting on him to get off to come down, and Joe went on stage to sing, and I just sat there and listened to him, and I was like, that's the voice. That's what I've been hearing in my head. That's the emotion I've been looking for. So it's a lot more so about the emotion that I hear, the emotion that I feel, and all of that kind of working together as one.
Hmm. That's good. Like I said, that's because like that's sort of that's sort of a question that, like I said, I sort of, you know, it's funny because I don't play music, you know,
Right.
and so everything came into my head. So I had to get somebody that played music or whatever to get the song out. So I was just curious. That's all because I that's one of the things that I kind of dealt with when I was younger, and it's really cool though, and it's interesting how a song is written, and
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
that's the interesting part. about creating music itself, and getting. Do you also when you write or anything? Do you like sort of like how do you say? It? Do you just like go into your own thing? You don't listen to any music for a while. You know what I mean? You don't listen to other music or anything, so nothing sounds similar.
Um, no, actually, quite the opposite.
Okay.
It's and it depends on the song and what I'm trying to do with the song that I'm writing. But there are lots of times that I will um, I will listen to other music or different artists that have similar style in the song that I'm writing,
Mm-hmm.
and I will see. For me, what I keep coming back to with music, music is emotional, and a lot of times when songs are written, it's a lot of people go through the motions and they say, okay, well, I got to check this off and check this off. I did that, but they forget about the point or the feeling that they're trying to get across. And when that gets lost, the music loses something. So a lot of times I'll go listen to artists that I know are similar to what I'm trying to write, and it helps me kind of get into um, the headspace that I'm looking for to be able to write what I want to write.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, there are a couple songs on the album that are angry, and I would go and listen to NF, who has several songs who are very, very aggressive songs, and because that's the power of music. Music has the ability to change your emotion with the
Yes.
snap of a finger, and a lot of times I would go and I would just listen and and kind of get into that emotion, and I would just allow myself to just dive into the music. Um, because when you are feeling an emotion, you're able to portray it when you begin writing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it would be the opposite. I would listen to several different artists. I wouldn't just do one, but several different artists who have a similar style to really embrace the emotion that I wanted to come across in the song that I was writing, and allow it to mold as I went along.
Hmm. That's interesting. That really is. You know, so the the album title, Reflections. How did you come up with that?
Uh, I really had several different ideas that I was bouncing off of my father at the time, um, and he and I began talking about it. And uh, I actually think it was, if I remember correctly, I believe it was his idea
Hmm.
um, to go with Reflections, because the idea of the album, it being very personal and telling a story, and um, it portraying a lot of the emotion that I went through in 2018 with a lot of things that changed in my life. Uh, it really kind of, it's a reflection on what I went through. And uh, if I remember correctly, I actually think it was his idea. And when he first said it, I wasn't sure about it until I started thinking about it. And it really kind of hit me. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the cover. Um, right when I decided, that's exactly what this album is. It's a reflection on what I went through. So, and I knew exactly, how I wanted the album cover to look. And I had a friend of mine here in Nashville take a picture, and I sent it down to an unbelievable videographer, photographer, graphic designer. Dean Gibson is a real good buddy of mine who is actually moving out to LA. And I said, hey, this is the idea that I want to go with. Can you do your thing on it? And he did a phenomenal job with the cover and put it all together.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of thought that, but I just wanted to, just wanted to find out about that. That's cool because if this is so now I'm jumping ahead, but are you got do you have some ideas for your next uh your next album?
Um, I've got some things I have thought about. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if any decisions have been made necessarily with what I'm going to do specifically, whether it's following up this album with another album or a single or an EP. I haven't necessarily decided exactly what I'm going to do, but I began thinking about it and writing down some ideas, and I think once this releases and we get through the initial um, shockwave of it being released, I think some of those ideas will begin to be decided and figured out.
That's interesting. I can't wait to listen to your album because now it'll be like, huh, he's going through it. And the cool thing about this is that, if you're going, you may be going through the same thing. If I listen to this album, I'll be like, you know what, man, I remember going through something like that. If it's, you know what I mean? If it's something,
Absolutely.
and that's what's cool. I mean, and that's great that, that so in essence is, are you still going to do like what I meant by your second album? Is it going to be a lot of your life experiences?
Uh, it's definitely a part of it. Some of the ideas that I have. I think that everything that I do will be very um, life experience based. I very few times do I really write anything that I haven't necessarily experienced or seen or been a part of. Um, I really try to keep everything that I do, uh, you know, at least relatable, and not just me telling somebody else's story. However, I can do that, and I know I can do it well. I've written wedding songs for friends in the past. That was very much their story, and I just had
Wow.
the details and put them together. It's what really showed me that as a lyricist, that's where my strengths were, because I've always been able to do that very well. I can take uh, the details of a story
Hmm.
and create it for somebody else. It's just a blessing, a gift that God gave me, as to be able to portray a story. But most of the stuff that I write, it is personal. It's things that I've experienced or
Hmm.
been a part of, or seen friends and family experience.
No, since you said that you have a like a country kind of background in a way, I mean, now I've listened to country kind of rap. Is it something like that, or is it more so like you said, it's more R&B? You know what I'm
So
saying? I mean,
yeah,
because they'll throw rap in now. The
oh
country music.
absolutely, yeah,
My
yeah.
wife's a big country music fan. I listen to some of the older. I like the older stuff more than I like some of the new stuff. But uh, is it going to be something like that? I mean, I'm just curious. That's all.
I I can't say yes or no.
Uh huh.
I can say that it's not out of the question. In this album, no, it's very much rap and hip hop. There are R&B style songs on here. Nothing that gives any country feel at all. No, um, it's been talked about for the future, about kind of melding the two,
Hmm.
because I feel like when somebody can do that and do it well, when I was younger. I guess really when I was in high school, Colt Ford was a big one. Was a big country rapper, if you will. And I think when it's done well, it can be amazing. It can. So it's not, I enjoy the challenge of that. I've actually got on YouTube uh, I've got a little remix that I did. I did these little things called Single Verse Sunday. These little videos that'll actually get taken down once I release the album because I don't own them. But they were just little things that I did that I put onto YouTube. Um, and I sang with a country vocal on an R&B song.
Hmm.
And then I rapped in the second half of it. So I enjoy the challenge of trying to mix the two.
Hmm.
because it can be very difficult to do, and some people hate it, some people enjoy it. It's all by preference. But I can't say I will or I won't. It's been talked about, and it's not out of the question.
I was just curious because, like, I know people. Some people are, like, I'll use an example. I think a lot of I like Big and Rich because of how they did it. They didn't.
Absolutely.
I mean, compared to they'll actually get an actual rapper to sing with them.
Oh,
And
100%.
but I think they real that was creative what they did. As far as that, and that's the only thing I can look at and see that that's kind of neat. I don't know if you're getting if you're going to do something such as that nature.
It has definitely been talked about. Yeah, I mean,
Good. Okay.
like
Cool.
I've got a lot of
I
cool
don't mean
friends
good.
that
I meant yeah.
influences,
That's
and
that's great. I mean, yeah. That's something to even yeah. You got to keep me posted because I'd like to hear when you get your next album.
absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, that's neat. Yeah. So when's your album coming out? So I can tell the. Do you know exactly when or?
It is Reflections will be releasing January 25th. I chose that date because it's my father's 60th birthday.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be releasing. It is set to release on all digital platforms January 25th. It is available now to pre-save via Spotify. So you can go to my website, musicbytd.com, and on the front page there is a pre-save button. If you click it, it'll go straight to the album, and you can click pre-save, and so when it releases, it'll instantly be on your Spotify list, and you can listen to it right away. And tomorrow, it will be available on iTunes to pre-order.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's great. So be looking for Reflections, and by Tyler Davis or TD. So uh, check it out. I can't wait to listen to it. And now that I have a date, I'll be able to. I know I can subscribe because I went to your website. I'll make sure when we do air this that we put it on our page as well. So people can just go ahead and go to your website and check it out. So
absolutely.
they'll be able to see where to go and how to get your music and listen to it and enjoy it as much as I know I probably will. So
I
I just
appreciate that.
I want to thank you, Tyler, for coming on, letting us know about your music and your testimony and how things are working out for you. And I wish you great success in the future. And this is Jim Seacrest with the All Over Podcast, and thank you for watching.